Very tragically, at the end, you have this one where he seems to have died for his art.
So that's I wanted to tell you that the donkey is not a donkey in every situation.
They seem rather treacherous. Okay, here we go. Are you ready?
Yes, yes.
Hello, this is Waswo X Waswo, Evil O, coming to you again from Udaipur. And today I'm talking to a fabulous artist who works largely in etching, who's really getting very well known. And without further ado, I'll just introduce her, Ketaki Sarpotdar. How are you, Ketaki?
Yes, I'm fine. Vasco, how are you?
I'm fine. Where are you speaking from today?
I'm speaking from Baroda at my home. I just temporarily shifted my studio here because of coronavirus. So right now I'm sitting in my temporarily studio.
You know, I'm going to be in Baroda maybe on Friday, so maybe I'll see you in real life. I'm thinking of coming down.
Yes, yes, of course, of course.
To visit a few people.
Yes, yes, you can come, you can come.
Okay, that's good. So you shifted, you normally have your own studio, but now because of coronavirus, you're in your house.
Yeah. I'm working in community studio. Its name is Vis. So there we have etching press and hot press. So there are so many like etching equipments are there. So I'm working usually in that studio, but right now because of that coronavirus, I'm shifted my studio here and working and practicing from my home.
You normally use what, copper plate or zinc plate? What do you do?
Well, I'm using zinc plate, but I worked on copper plate also, but not largely. I just try, for experimenting. I'm using those plates, but majorly I'm working in zinc plate.
Okay. And are you strictly doing etchings or are you doing some dry points too or anything else?
Yeah, I'm working in etching, dry points, the 2D lenticular prints, then charcoal, gouache. So I try to shift it my mediums, but largely I'm showing my etchings everywhere. So maybe so many people thought I'm working on etching only, but it's not right. I'm working in other mediums also.
Well, your characters you develop are so spectacular and fun and interesting. But before I get into that, like I really want to talk about Bravo, which I think is one of your newer suites of etchings. But before we do that, I just want you to say a little bit about you went to school in Mumbai, right? First?
Yes, yes, yes. I done my bachelor's or diploma in LS Raja School of Art, Bombay. Later, I got admission in Baroda in 2016 and 2018 and 18. I passed out from MSU Baroda Graphic Department.
Okay.
So between the bachelor's and master's, I have 2 year gaps. So between that 2 years gap, I worked in Bhopal, Bharat Bhavan,
Oh, okay.
and for 6 months, I was in Bhopal. And later, I worked in Priyashri Studio and Simisha Studio in Baroda. So, and then I got admission in masters.
Okay, okay. Very, very good. Um, let's start with some of the works because they're really fabulous. And you know, I read in your PDF you sent your artist statement, and one thing I liked is you talked about you were just an observer. You were an observer of the human condition and of humanity, and I really see that in this series called Bravo. You want to talk about Bravo at all? I think the characters you've developed in there are so relatable.
Actually, the stories and the characters in my visuals, I just I took that metaphors from the stories which I was reading. So I just use that personified forms of that animals and the thing that is came from the story, because I think that stories which I was reading, I still felt it relevant today's scenario. except their core of that story is relate like human behavior is still I can relate it with my surrounding situations. So that's
What story are you talking about?
yeah, I'm talking about the folk tales. I'm reading folk tales and even the stories like Panchatantra, Aesop Niti, and Southwest American stories, folk stories like my so and Italian stories. So there are the stories which is most of the stories I'm referring is Panchatantra and Indian folk tales. So I used to read that, or maybe I was read it first and later I connect with my surrounding. So it's
One of your earlier works that I remembered seeing at Latitude 28 referenced George Orwell and Animal Farm too. That's one of the first pieces that caught my eye. But I really like the way you use animal characters to speak about humanity and the
yes.
foibles of humanity. And you're right, a lot of folktales do that too, you know.
Yes. Actually, I the main core of that folk tales is humanity. It's talking about the human behavior, and I think I saw each and every situations which is turn into good and bad. That is depend on the persons who are person's behavior. So that's why I think that talks about persons to persons behaving behavioral thing.
So in Bravo, you have a toad
Yes.
gesturing very, very elegantly and pompously. And then you have a shadow that's sort of a bull. And I'm not sure if that's like a reference to bullfrog or not. And then you have like the
Yes.
cheering crowd in the background. I mean, this piece
Yes.
is really strong.
Yes. Actually, I'm just I use that story, but I don't wanted to illustrate them. I wanted to referring them as I just wanted to use that story to tell my understanding of that situation. So these are like metaphors. So I don't wanted to illustrate them. I wanted to talk with them, talk through that story to viewer. So that's why I'm giving twist and adding something in my visual. So with that frog and bull story, I'm adding the crowd. The crowd are cheering that frog to make himself or herself
It's
that
like a
person.
circus because in the next one you have a turtle that's up on some sort of stilts,
Yes.
you know. And then in the next one after that, you have a monkey, a Hanuman Longer, I think it is, bouncing on a tightrope, and it's an aerial view, and you're looking down at the
Yeah.
stadium. I mean, these are marvelous images.
So actually, I wanted to show that person act foolishly to when he was in that under that focus light. So like for to gain something, to to gain something, persons act foolishly sometimes, and even he don't know about it. So that I'm talking about persons who is act foolishly under that focus light in that series. So basically that series is very initial work of my masters. So that series is turning point of my work actually, even
Well,
technically and everything.
you can read them in a couple ways because in some you can read sort of like the pompousness of the performer, you
Yes,
know, who's
yes,
acting out a role for the cheers of the crowd. But then in
yes,
other ways, like the one with the Hanuman Longer, I almost feel sorry for him. It's like he's being forced to do a trick or an act that he maybe
yes.
doesn't even want to do, but he has to do it to please the crowd. You know, I relate to a lot of this type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's really good. And then I'm just looking through these as we talk, and then you have sort of like an opera singer on a stage, and there's only one person in the audience, but he's like, I don't know what animal that is. What animal is that? The
uh,
opera singer one. This one.
okay, that one is lion.
Oh, that's a lion. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then you've got the politician. I'm going to insert these too, but the politician, I take this to be with his megaphone.
Yeah, it's like it's a six series plate series. So I gradually developed my understanding when I was working in this series. So one after one, I'm making the visual so that my understanding of that understanding is like increasing after one imagery. So at the end, I done that donkey and frog one. So that's why you can see my shifting my shifting thing. I'm shifting from one plate to another plate.
Well, I think that by using the animals, it's always a clever technique because if you actually use human forms, then there can be sympathy developed for the characters, and people can go like, "Oh, you're making fun of this person." You know what I mean?
Yes,
Whereas when
actually,
you're
yes,
when you're using
yes,
animals, we laugh at it quite, with abandon. We
yes,
don't care about seeing, and then
yes.
and then very tragically at the end, you have this one where he seems to have died for his art, I think. And in the audience, people will see this when I insert it in the audience. The whole audience has kind of gone into an orgy frenzy.
Yes, they're just going back.
They're going back.
Actually, not showing them human. It's like I don't want it to be specify them like the people who are wearing this clothes and they have that color. So that in that particular situation, they are behaving that these persons are behaving only like that. I don't want it to say this thing. Like it is, I wanted to just make the universally. I wanted to talk universally or like widely. So that's why I'm not specifying or not using directly human forms. I'm
Yeah,
just
it doesn't chain it to a particularity of place
yes,
or politics, but
yes,
it makes it much more universal. And this is something, I often like talk with my own art that sometimes does get political. I say like, I like art that talks about the human condition, but when it gets
yes,
very specifically political about specific sides
yes,
or whatever, then I think it loses some of its power because the foils of humanity are universal,
yes, yes.
and it's like
And
everybody falls into these traps.
yes, and even if you are talking about specific political situation, you need to know everything, every side of that situation. Otherwise, you cannot. Otherwise, your art became cliche, or the people are starting questioning to you. Like, and the political situations are changing, like every after 5 years. So like you can think the people are correct right now. So after 5 years, you think they are not to be correct.
Right.
So so talking about particular situation, it's restrict me, and I think that's not my concern to talk about situations. I wanted to talk about the human behavior, like because of that, because I think in a situation there are one brightest side and one darkest side, but I wanted to stick myself between that gray shade to talk about human, what is in that gray shade. So I found that humans behavior are reason and based of that situations result.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly right. And your draftsmanship in making the characters is just astounding. I mean, you must have had a real fascination with old, like, wood engravings and etchings from old books or something. Because that's what they remind me so much of, but you're doing it in your own way.
Yes, actually, I used to draw. I'm not skillful a person, so I draw until I get that result or until I wanted to that characters, and I don't want it to go in characterization because I'm talking about my surroundings. So I don't want it to make it surrealistic or like give them make some characterization. So I used to draw. I took references from animals, and then I turned them into human. But it will take time to draw. And I referring from the some old political magazines and like Punch magazines and
Yeah.
the old magazines from uh, yeah, I'm taking references from old books.
Have you copied some characters directly, or do you always sort of invent your own?
No, actually, I'm not copying the character because I wanted to show them like I've like I wanted to like I want, so that I'm not copying the character directly.
Yeah, you said you weren't skillful, but to me you're incredibly skillful. Might take you a lot of time, but that's a different thing if it's time consuming, you know. But I think like the gestures and how people are posed, I mean, and the expressions on the animal faces, I mean, they convey a lot. They're very expressive, you know. So now I'm looking at this series you did called Nobody Knows, which was from 2018, and I have two of those in my house.
Yes.
Um, but I mean, I'm looking the first one that's because I printed out your PDF, but the first one is of the woman with the goose head leading this old lady, this old toad, and she's got a knife in one hand. You want to
Actually,
explain?
no, actually, I'll explain you about that whole series. It's 12 plate of series, and in that series, I just talk about the characters' behavior. We already know or already predict some characters. Like he is, like donkey is always donkey in every situation. We predict that. But in that series, I will try to break that perception that donkey will be also smart in situation in any situation. So I will focusing on that in that series. So that series is based on the characters whose behavior we already know or predict by giving the characters a twist.
But they seem rather treacherous. I mean, so you have this goose leading the old lady with a knife. It seems very sinister, like she's leading the old lady to her death, the old toad lady. And then in the one of the ones I bought, you've got this Dr. Donkey listening with a
Yeah.
stethoscope. It sounds funny when I say that. Dr. Donkey listening with a stethoscope to this monkey man with his round glasses. And he's hiding the needle behind him like he's going to like poison him or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's I wanted to tell you that the donkey is not a donkey in every situation. Maybe he acts smarter also.
Right.
It's depending on situation.
So is that what the title Nobody Knows refers to? Sort of like this nobody knows what treachery lurks behind these characters, or
Yes, yes. This is
that's
behind that. It's because of that strategy behind the characters, actually. Because I'm just giving that series name is nobody knows. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then there's the other one I bought, which is I think it's a pig with a crown and the two fox carrying his robes.
Yes. The
Very
donkey with the crown.
oh, he's a donkey. Okay, yeah, very proudy acting. And then you also have the donkey being carried away by two men.
Yes, yes.
Is that donkey being carried away? Is he supposed to be being treated well, or is he being disposed of?
It's actually yes. It's more like he is comfortable. The donkey is comfortable, but I just wanted to questioning about the people what they wanted to do exactly with that situation. They wanted to carry them, or they wanted to sit on them. So sometime in for something you wanted to do, you were just messed up with that situation.
The other thing we didn't talk about, and this is not the concept so much, but the way you craft it, and that's your use of light.
Yes.
The light is so gorgeous in these, the way you have a sense of shade and highlight. And this one with the monkey, what is he reaching for? It looks like he's reaching for little hats.
Cap, caps,
It's
caps.
like
It's
a
a
little
caps.
like a little Nehru cap or something he's reaching for,
Yes,
yeah?
yes. Actually, yes, he's trying to, get that cap, but he's also looking at very, it's that he's also staring to pick up or pick up not that cap.
Yeah. So, I
Hmm.
mean, once again, I mean, the craftsmanship that you bring to this is amazing. So then we have two I want to talk about, and I can't even read the titles, and maybe they're not in English.
Yeah, there are.
Durbalasma Balam Raja etching. It looks like
Yeah, yes.
a
It's actually
mob.
some. Yeah.
There's two of these. There's another one which is also a
Yes.
mob.
Yes.
You want to talk about
Actually,
those two?
yes, actually, this two's name is in that I gave that title in Sanskrit, Durbalasya Balam Raja. It's a Sanskrit, that title is from Sanskrit Subhashita. So it is a long Subhashita, but I will just take first line of that Subhashita. So it means a king forms strength of weak. So in that which I try to depict the situation, because others' weakness is sometimes became someone's strength. So in that visual, you can see the ships are going towards something, and in that ships there is one fox is there who is wearing ship's mask, and he's also going with them. So sometimes others' weakness is make someone's beneficial for someone's. So that's
Right.
why that specific that plate name is Durbalasya Balam Raja. So
What's the translation of that mean?
a king forms the strength of weaks.
Ah, okay. A king creates the strength of the weak,
Yes,
forms the strength of the weak.
yes, yes.
Yeah, there's truth
Kings
in
forms
that.
because of strength of weaks. Yeah.
A king forms because of the strength of the weak.
Yeah,
Is
yes,
that what you're
yes, yes.
saying? That
Yes,
all
that
the
was
weak people combined give the king strength.
yes, yes.
And then conversely, ideally, the king ought to give the weak people strength also through his leadership, but that doesn't always happen.
And
Okay.
another one, yeah.
Hmm. Yes.
Another name is Vinashikale Viparit Buddhi. So when the doom is approaches or a bad time is coming, the person intellects work against their best interest. So that name is Vinashikala Viparita Buddhi. That is also from Sanskrit Subhashita. So actually, I'm in 8th, 9th standard till 10th. I'm taking Sanskrit. So I'm very familiar with the Sanskrit Subhashita Shloka. So they are also meaningful. They are also talking about this particular situation. And they are giving examples. In Sanskrit Subhashita, there are two lines talking about the situation.
Yeah, okay.
So this is the uh, main thing you can see in Sanskrit Subhashita.
So you're taking things from shlokas.
Yes, it's not a shloka; it's a subhashita. So it is also talking about the persons, human. So it is not exactly the shlok. It is like they are talking about your surrounding, the thing, like the way in Panchatantra the stories are talking about the human, like that. In that similar thing you can find in Sanskrit Subhashita also, but their way of elaborate, it's a little bit different.
It's like a
Uh,
parable, maybe, if that would
yeah,
be a
yeah,
compare, like a
yes,
parable, something like that.
yes,
So anyway, the last one I made the printout here was from also 2018, and this is the one that's taken directly from Animal Farm.
yes.
And I really like the way you use the old illustrations, but you also use the Republic TV style breaking news. It's rather wonderful. And those headlines like Major Hog is no more, comrades are in sorrow. Did you invent those, or are those actual lines from Animal Farm?
Yes, yes. Actually, I read that book, Animal Farm, and I feel it's very political. Yeah, it was written during Second World War by George Orwell, and I just really feel that is still relevant. It's very, very much relevant to my scenario, political scenario, and each and every person's.
Orwell
So,
has suddenly become really relevant all over the world, not only Animal Farm, but 1984 too. I mean,
yes,
both of those have become really relevant again.
yes,
And I read
yes,
them in high school, like every American kid reads those in high school.
yes. Okay.
It's one of those books that get passed around. So we've talked a long time. Is there any other artwork you want to speak about?
Actually, yeah, I'm talking about. I wanted to talk about the whole like journey or about my talk about my works. Like
Sure.
there is not in my masters. When I was got admission in masters in initial days, my works are like I'm illustrate what I was reading, but in later I was started to use my reading understanding to relate my surrounding. So there from there my works is little bit shifted. So right now I'm doing whatever I read, and from that reading what I can understand, that I was relate, and that I was connect with my surrounding. So this is the basic idea of my work. So through that, I was talking about the fake situation, the dramatic situation surrounding me. The people are to gain something. The people are making some foolish act for that, for their little benefits or for Christmas of their benefits, and the things are going differently because of that. So the human behavior, I'm talking about the specific human behavior, and I'm using the characters and the story's character as a metaphor because I think they are like I wanted to using them as a uh, showing the human sensible humans as a sensible humans. So uh, the base of my work is that.
I find all
And
of your work right now is rather, it has a comical side or a humorous side. It's satirical, but I also see your work has potential for a lot of darkness. If you
yes,
chose to go in that direction, you could make it very serious if you wanted to also.
yes, because I wanted to show the darker part of the society, because the stories, illustrations, and the stories is not more stories for me. Which I was read, I was connected them with my surrounding. So when I was connect that thing with my surrounding, I find them in a darker part of the human side. So that's why most of my works are show the darker parts. And but I'm not criticizing the all in every situation. I'm not criticizing the all. In some situation there are specifically the people are in that animal, and that in that animal form, but the rest of others are human. So I'm just don't want to criticize whole society. So in specifically, I'm talking about the specific persons. Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've had a nice chat. I'm trying to keep these relatively short, but I want to end by asking you, I'm going to start doing this with everybody now, asking you two things. One question, two things. I want you to say an older or a historical artist who influenced you, or just who you really, really like and admire.
Yes.
And then
Uh,
also a young artist
yes.
who you currently
Actually,
like and admire. You want to just two names, an older one and
yes.
a younger one. You have to choose somebody.
Yeah, I'm talking about the older one.
Okay.
Okay, because my works are inspired. It's from old masters. So the Rembrandt for technical things, for technical aspects, I'm taking thing from Rembrandt's. And for the conceptual thing, I was looking for the Daumier and the Goya. So these trees, like it's very difficult to choose one, but these trees are very majorly
Yeah, I
influenced
definitely
on my
see
work.
Goya there. I see Goya there, and I see the Rembrandt with the use of lights and darks, maybe.
Yes.
So,
So this I'm just referring them and for technical thing and for their concept for Goya what he was wanted to talk at that time and why he was thinking like that in that situation where he was lived. So, and for Rembrandt, I'm using his technique to create such kind of ambience in my plate. So that's why I'm referring him because he's master, like old master for me, for everyone. So I'm using his technique. Even I just copied his one or two etchings when I was in masters. So
okay.
yes.
So who is a younger artist of your age or so that you really think a lot of and you think people should pay attention to? Only one.
Uh, okay, it's very difficult to say that because there are so many. But yeah, there are few artists whose work, like, yeah, there is one younger artist. I recently saw his work and I really like it that I can feel which I wanted to be lack in my work. That is Anupam Roy, actually. He's
Anupam
from
Roy. Okay.
Yes, actually, I really like his work. So what he was doing, that exactly
And where's
reflect in
he
his.
where's he where's he from?
Actually, I don't know exactly where it's from, but I saw his work in Project 88. I saw his solo show, and yeah, his illustrations and whatever he was done is, it can reflect his life and reflect his thinking in his work. So I really liked the way he create the things. He's not more interested in create the things. He's more interested to deliver something which he was taught. So that's why I like his work.
Okay,
So
interesting.
yeah.
I'll have to check him up. I'm not familiar with his work, but I'll check on it. That's one
Yeah.
reason I'm beginning to ask people these questions.
Yes.
So anyway,
So
it
yes.
was really nice. And
Thank you.
so I mean, just to conclude this on, you're represented currently by Bhavna at Latitude 28. Any
Yes. Yes.
other
And
galleries? But I know
no.
Bhavna has your work.
Yes, Bhavna has my work, and right now the Mirchandani Gallery Mirchandani is trying to showing some of my works right now. But majorly Bhavna have so many my etchings and prints and drawings.
You
Like
have a show
in
going on at Merchandani right now, your
yes,
YouTube show.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And what's the name of that show?
No, there is not a title of specific title of that show, but this is a three-person show, and there is Sukhdev Rathod and Devi Sitaram and me. The three persons works are displayed in
Well,
that.
that's a good gallery too. You're doing well.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I'll see you in Baroda on Friday. Thank
Yes,
you for
yes, yes.
talking. I'm just going to conclude a little. Everybody, please like and subscribe now. Helps the channel keep going and do it. And also, thank you, Ketaki. Thank you so much for joining. And say
Thank you,
goodbye.
Vasu.
Say goodbye. You
Goodbye,
have to wave like
goodbye.
this.
Yes, bye, bye.
Bye. Bye.